स्तुत्र सत अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। ISKCON फाउंडर आचार्य बीबीटी फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। सद गोस्वामी प्रभु वृंदावन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the seven devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the seven devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the seven devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 27. Kaschit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa aste sukham angasorihi yo vai svashrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo vartarpanena kaschit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa aste sukham angasorihi yo vai svashrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo vartarpanena kaschit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa aste sukham angasorihi yo vai svashrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo vartarpanena. Please chant. Kaschit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa aste sukham angasorihi yo vai svashrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo vartarpanena kaschit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa aste sukham angasorihi yo vai svashrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo vartarpanena kaschit kurunam paramasurinno bhamasa aste sukham angasorihi yo vai svashrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo vartarpanena Kashit kurunam paramasurinno Bhama saaste sukhamangasorihi Yo vaisvashrinam pitriva dadati Varan vadanyo vartarpanena. Antaji, please. Kaschit kurunam paramasurinno Bhama saaste sukhamangasorihi Yo vaisvashrinam pitriva dadati Varan vadanyo vartarpanena Kashit kurunam paramasurinno Bhama saaste sukham angasorihi Yo vaisvashrinam pitriva dadati Varan vadanyo vartarpanena Kashit kurunam paramasurinno Bhama saaste sukham angasorihi Yo vaisvashrinam pitriva dadati Varan vadanyo vartarpanena Kashit kurunam paramasurinno Bhama saaste sukhamangasorihi Yo vaisvashrinam pitriva dadati Varan vadanyo vartarpanena. Synonyms, please repeat. Kaschit, whether. Kurunam, of the Kurus. Paramaha, greatest. Suhrit, well-wisher. Naha, our. Bhamaha, brother-in-law. Saha, he. Aste, is. Sukham, happy. Anga, O Uddhava. Sorihi, Vasudeva. Yaha, one who. Why, certainly. Swashrinam, of the sisters. Pitrivat, like a father. Dadati, gives. Varan, everything desirable. Vadanyaha, munificent. Vara, wife. Tarpanena, by pleasing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives. Purport. Lord Krishna's father Vasudev had 16 wives, and one of them named Pauravi or Rohini, the mother of Baladev, was the sister of Vidura. Vasudev therefore was the husband of Vidura's sister, and thus they were brothers-in-law. Vasudev's sister Kunti was the wife of Pandu, Vidura's elder brother, And in that sense also Vasudeva was brother-in-law to Vidura. Kunti was younger than Vasudeva, and it was the duty of the elder brother to treat younger sisters as daughters. Whenever anything was needed by Kunti, it was munificently delivered by Vasudeva due to his great love for his younger sister. Vasudeva never dissatisfied his wives, and at the same time he supplied the objects desired by his sister. He had special attention for Kunti because she became a widow at an early age. While inquiring about Vasudeva's welfare, Vidura remembered all about him and the family relationship. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I seek the blessings of all my superiors here. Translation once more. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives. So we've been hearing last few days how Vidura is asking about the welfare of the family members of Lord Krishna, and he's speaking with Uddhava here, of course. And in this verse, he's talking about Vasudeva, and interestingly enough, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport how there is one has to living in this world, living in the family, even within the devotee families, one has to have a healthy balance with dealings with all different kinds of responsibilities. And he gives example of Vasudeva here actually, because he was keeping his 16 wives satisfied, and at the same time he was treating his younger sister like his own daughter and supplying her necessities, whatever she needed. And so, but he was very intelligent to make sure his wives are happy with all that. His, giving things, it can create various issues in the families. Why are you giving this or so much, or why can't you give a little less, or this or that? So we see it all the time happening. And so Vasudeva, he is like a perfect example to follow, living like a balanced householder life. And of course, we know Vasudeva is father of Lord Krishna, so he's the best father who can act in that role. And he's showing by his personal example, even he's treating his younger sister like a daughter, especially because she became widow at a young age. So this is this whole chapter I was trying to see some relevant points that I could share. And this whole chapter is pretty much Vidura is inquiring about all the family members. But then next chapter, Uddhava starts to speak, and I think it's entitled like Remembrance of Lord Krishna. It's a very wonderful chapter, and has, of course, all the chapters are great, but it also has some very important verses, and we can see the mood of Uddhava. He's like so absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and that's what Vidura is doing also while traveling, and that's why he's asking all these questions also. It's like he's what's this word? There is a word called udipana, something that excites your that gives you inspiration to focus on something. So in devotional service also we can find different things that help increase our own enthusiasm, our inspiration to do whatever services we are doing, and of course ultimately to increase our remembrance of Krishna, to increase our love for Krishna. Because why he's asking all these questions, Vidura already know about all these things. He's aware of it, what's happened. And so because he's speaking with Uddhava, who is Uddhava? If we consider it, since it's leading to the next chapter, and we're gonna see more how is the mood of Uddhava. Uddhava is a person who always was with Krishna all the time, and Krishna was in Dwarka. And they are like buddies actually, because they both grew up together, and even in a relationship, I think they are cousins. And Uddhava, even his bodily features, they are all completely same like Krishna. To such an extent that when Uddhava, he went to Vrindavan to give the message of Krishna to the devotees that, Krishna will be coming soon, just to, when you are anticipating someone's coming and someone brings a message, or he's just on the way, he's just like almost coming. So it increases the anticipation even more. So this is another example of Udipana, how we can increase our inspiration, our love, our remembrance of Krishna. So Uddhava is such a personality. Not only that, the residents of Vrindavan, when Uddhava came, they couldn't figure out, it looks like Krishna. But of course, when they got closer, they could see it's not Krishna. But that's how similar Uddhava looks to Krishna. And not only that, Uddhava even wore clothes that were worn by Krishna. So Krishna would personally give him his clothes. And that's what Uddhava would wear. So even the bodily features are same, body color is same, the clothes are same. It's like, from distance, it's hard for someone to guess it's Krishna or Uddhava. So that's Uddhava. And he always was with Krishna. I was hearing a talk, and this Maharaj, he was, I think it was Varsana Swami, he mentioned that Uddhava, he would make arrangements for Krishna. When Krishna is about to wake up, he would go to the palace and he would get everything ready for Krishna to start his activities. And then when Krishna is about to go to bed, that's when Uddhava would go back to his place. So that's how much time Uddhava was spending with Krishna. So there are two types of pastimes. One is called Vyavarik pastime, and another is called, what's the Sanskrit word? I'm forgetting the Sanskrit. Vastvik pastime. So the manifest pastimes and unmanifest pastimes. Now, Uddhava, he was seeing both, because he was hanging out with Krishna in Dwarka, and also internally he was absorbed in the unmanifest pastimes of Krishna. So Uddhava, he was personally instructed by Krishna to stay back. Generally, Krishna doesn't recommend people to stay back in the material world, But we can see Uddhava is such a personality. Krishna personally recommended him to stay. Even when Uddhava was asking, I want to go with you. And he's like, no, you need to stay here. You have to do some special service for me. And so Uddhava, he was also like Krishna would personally take advice from Uddhava. He was also one of the ministers. And he was very astute. He was very wise. Of course, Krishna doesn't need guidance, but we can see how Krishna deals personally with his devotees, how he is seeking advice from Uddhava. And not only just seeking advice, Krishna would also act on his advice. So it's very personal exchanges. But Uddhava, he could see not only that, when he went to Vrindavan, he could pacify these devotees who are like feeling separation of Krishna. And so we can understand the position of Uddhava. Now, since this is also like Vidura is also trying to remember Krishna and his family members by putting all these inquiries, and not only that, he's also trying to kind of create Udipana for Uddhava to speak Bhagavatam, to speak about Krishna to Vidura. But of course, we know, like, seeing the etiquette and how things work in Vaishnava circles, Uddhava, he advised Vidura to go to Markandeya Rishi. Markandeya Rishi would be the Maitreya, sorry. Thank you. Maitreya Rishi. So Uddhava was feeling, Vidura was kind of feeling like he kind of missed out a little bit because Uddhava is so close to Krishna, and he was like really hoping to hear from Uddhava about Krishna. But since it's like anything that brings us remembrance of Krishna, it's still the best thing to happen to anyone. And so Vidura also still, they had like a amazing conversation, discussion, talks about Krishna with Maitreya Rishi. So just about thinking about that, I was thinking how we are so fortunate to be studying about all these pastimes and hearing about all these details, pretty much getting to know Krishna personally as a person. It's not just some imagined concept. So we're getting to know Krishna, his family, his friends, everyone, just by hearing about these. Now, many times it may feel like in one of the purports, I heard even some devotee mention in one of the previous purports, like Prabhupada says, Vidura knows about this, so why is he still asking? It's like a philosophical or psychological inquiry. It's not necessary. But this is also like a Udipana. It's like trying to incite Uddhava to say more. And so same way we can use this as a Udipana, as a tool for us to remember Krishna, to increase our remembrance of Krishna, and to increase our inspiration for our own devotional practices. Now, one of the glorifications of Srimad Bhagavatam is that when Yudhishthir, the Pandavas, when they left the kingdom, they installed their grandson, Parikshit Maharaj, and in Mathura, Yudhishthir Maharaj installed Vajranabh, the grandson of Krishna. So what had happened is Vajranabh, So Parikshit Maharaj went to see Vajranab in Mathura, and they were talking, and he was like, you focus on like serving all the queens of Lord Krishna who had come from Dwarka to stay in Vrindavan, and the residents in Mathura, because Parikshit Maharaj is a little elder than Vajranab, so he's kind of, out of affection, he's offering him protection also. And he's saying that, you just like focus on serving the queens and organizing, reviving places of pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrajabhumi. And all other aspects, I will take care of other aspects. So Vajranath was like, what are you talking about? Like, ruling and organizing, and there's no one here. Who am I going to rule over? There has to be some people to rule over, right? So they called Sandilya Rishi, who is the priest for the family of Nanda Maharaj, and they called him and they asked his advice. What should we do? And that's when, why I'm saying this is like it's leading to coming of Uddhava. So Sandilya Rishi, he suggested them that actually Uddhava, he lives here at Govardhan. And what you should do is you should hold a big festival and glorify Krishna, have talks about Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's what will create all auspiciousness, and everything will work nicely after that. So Vajranab and King Parikshit, they took Shandilya Rishi's advice, and that's what they decided to do. So all the mothers, all the queens, they were there for the ceremony. But then they asked, how are we going to find Uddhava? Where is Uddhava in Vrindavan? So Sandilya Rishi, he informed that he lives at Sakhi's Thali, it's near Kusum Sarovar. And he actually lives there in the form of a creeper. And then they were like, how is he going to manifest here? He's in the form of creeper, how is he going to manifest? So then Sandilya Rishi advised them that you should have Sankirtan festival, glorify, chant names of Krishna. And then hearing the names of Krishna, Uddhava will show up. And that's what they did. And to no surprise, Uddhava manifested. And then they had like, now the beauty is that Uddhava, because he had so close association of Krishna, so he could speak even the unmanifest pastimes, not just like Vyavarik Leelas. So Vyavarik Leelas is like, how Krishna, he comes to establish religious principles and destroy the atheistic people. That's like Vyavarik Leela. But Vastavik Leelas are like Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan with his close associates, with his close devotees like Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, or the cowherd boyfriends, the gopis. So that when that happened, Uddhava came and he shared this with all the devotees assembled there. Oh yeah, so one of the points was Parikshit Maharaj. When Uddhava manifest, he asked Parikshit that, Parikshit Maharaj, you should go and take charge of Kali, because Kali usually creates disturbance in all spiritual festivities, activities. So what you should do is you should go and take charge of Kali so that we can have an undisturbed Sankirtan festival here. And Parikshit Maharaj was like, he personally asked Uddhava that, I also want to hear from you. I don't want to go. So Uddhava was like, don't worry, you're gonna hear from a great devotee, and you'll get an opportunity to hear from Sukadev Goswami, who is the most realized in speaking about Krishna, and you will become even more glorious. But for now, this is the service you have to do. So Parikshit Maharaj, he had to, okay, thank you, and he went to his service. So you can imagine, like, when there is a personality like this, and you are like, you can't stay and hear. So, can be very hard to take. But of course, we know Parikshit Maharaj is pure devotee, so he took the service, took the blessings of Uddhava, and he went on his way. And then the queens, Vajranab and Uddhava, they had a great festival. Now, when devotees like this speak, then what happens when Uddhava spoke about Krishna? Krishna personally manifested there. And all the devotees who were there, they could see that Krishna is present here. So that's the difference between hearing from completely pure, conscious souls who are absorbed in remembering Krishna. And many of us here, especially the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they had some hints of that kind of experiences. Because many times Srila Prabhupada himself was in such deep absorption about Krishna, and he would give some like deeper inside sights of Vrajabhumi, Vrindavan, what happens in Vrindavan actually, of the spiritual world, spiritual reality, how Krishna deals with his own devotees. One pastime that I can personally remember, it's given in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, is like one night, Srila Prabhupada, like late night, he's having a party in his room, and his servant is like looking through the keyhole. What's going on? Why is Srila Prabhupada up so late? And he could hear Srila Prabhupada is playing mridanga, and he had like a big kadamba, I don't know, it was kadamba flower, I think. And yeah, it was kadamba flower garland. And that time, kadamba flower wasn't even in season. So this devotee, he asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, where did you get this garland from? And Srila Prabhupada was like, oh, Krishna came and he gave me the garland. And that's why I'm just like happy. I'm just chanting and dancing. So we can see like what kind of personality is Srila Prabhupada, and why these books are so important that Srila Prabhupada personally translated. He spent like sleepless nights. I was hearing another devotee and he was saying, people can do so many different austerities, but sacrificing sleep, not everyone can do. It's very difficult. Like you can imagine when there is a Janmashtami or some festival where devotees have to stay up all night, you can see next day how the body feels. Spiritually one may be still enthused, but physically we can see how our body responds to it. Lack of sleep, it can actually make one sick. But Srila Prabhupada, he had so many sleepless nights. He was like spending hours and hours at night translating Srimad Bhagavatam. Not only that, even up to his last breath, he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. When I watched this video, I was like, how's that even possible? Like, usually you see people, they are so afraid of dying. And in the Bhagavatam, there is a whole description what happens to a person when death comes. It's like, I don't even want to mention that. But one can imagine Srila Prabhupada is such a personality who is translating Srimad Bhagavatam to his last breath. So we have access to such translations, and we have this opportunity to take benefit of it. And Just by, even if one can't read, at least Srila Prabhupada say, at least you can hear. Just sit and hear whoever is speaking and just take the message. Someone else was mentioning it's like liquid nectar. Will flow through your ear and go to your heart. In the translation to the third purport of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, he mentions that just by hearing submissively, all one's heart's desires will be completely fulfilled. Now, one has to ask oneself this question, do you really want to fulfill all your desires? And that's where the technology is how to do it. We are living in a world of technology these days. That's the highest technology. So, today is Ekadasi. It's also the actual day for Gita Jayanti. We can, increase our remembrance in that way. In one of the essential, or out of many important subjects, one of the important subject is also Uddhava Gita in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, or rather re-spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, which is the Gita for engaging in activities. And then a more advanced Gita is Uddhava Gita that Krishna spoke personally to Uddhava just before leaving this planet. And one can imagine when one is about to leave, they have something really important that they had been holding on to give. Like even in families we can see, like coming from India, I can see the father, when he's about to die, he want to hand over all his inheritance to the children. So till then, he's like, some fathers, they try to keep a little tap on it, so the children don't completely overlook the father. So same way, Krishna, before leaving, he gave this Uddhava Gita to Uddhava, which is like another great part in the Bhagavatam to use as an inspiration to increase our love, our understanding of Lord Krishna. And that's where Krishna, he gave like more deeper insight on Bhagavad Gita, or like Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's when receiving that, although one can imagine how difficult it must be for Uddhava to be separated from Krishna when he spent practically all his life with him. But hearing that Uddhava Gita, he could like continue with his service. So same way, taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books, it's possible. One can do it. We have so many examples here in this community we can see. So we can do it just by taking shelter of these books. So we do have to take shelter, and if possible, we can take this opportunity to share it with others as much as possible in our individual situations. And this is a good use of using intelligence. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So even in the Bhagavad Gita, in the last chapter, again, Krishna is giving some, you see, he holded those essential instructions till the last chapter. Of course, in between here and there, he gave to Arjuna a little bit. But then, in the last chapter, he totally spilled the means, how to get to Krishna. And one of the means, or one of the important means, was that one who shares this message of Bhagavad Gita with others, that person becomes very dear to me. And it's the 1868, and then 1869 he says, not just dear, he's the most dear to me. Now this is another question we can ask ourselves, do we want to become dear to Krishna? If we do, then this is how to do it. So thank you very much for your kind attention, and take advantage of this day, especially the Ekadasi day. It's even more powerful, and there is less eating, so we can use that time to think more about Krishna. So thank you. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।